Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DropKick Podcast. He's a WWE producer / WWE veteran.
You're a 3-time WWE Tag Team Champion.
He's a former WWE Cruiserweight Champion. She's a broadcast personality, a former member of the Nexus. He's a 4-time Emmy-winning TV host.
Canadian Wrestling Hall of Famer. She's an ACW Women's Champion. And she is the daughter of the late, great British Bulldog. Winner of WWE's Cruiserweight Classic.
TJ Black from Ring of Honor, from TJP, aka TJ Perkins, Georgia Smith, Darren Young, Arnold, Ariel Blake,
Chris Van Vliet,
Wrestling Classic, aka Justin Dillon.
Please welcome Tyson Kidd, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of DropKick Podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us.
He's a veteran in the wrestling business, and you can also check out his podcast called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know, which you can find on any podcast streaming service.
The zombie princess himself, Jimmy Jacobs. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for the intro, guys, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, man, definitely. How's everything been? Because I know we've been in lockdown for a bit, but things are starting to finally open up, right?
Yeah, look, things are good. I moved to Phoenix in the middle of March, not knowing anybody here, and I moved right in time for everything to shut down. So I've been basically alone in my house, more or less, for 6 months.
Yeah,
I've made a couple friends here. It's not
that's
too
good.
But you know, spending time with yourself is so crucial in life. And
Yes, man.
towards the beginning of this time, it was sort of like, well, you have two options. You can either cave into yourself and just lie in bed and play games on your phone and watch reruns of Catfish or whatever I was doing. It's like, or you can, take the time to learn about yourself and better yourself. And I was able to do that, and it's been a very transformative time over the past 6 months.
That's great to hear, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think for a lot of people, it's been a blessing in disguise in a way because, as you said, you have the choice. You can either choose to sit around or you can choose to make something of this. For example, this is actually how me and Daniel created the podcast. We created it throughout quarantine, and that's how it became what it was today. But switching.
And that's the case. That's the case with anything. It's how you choose to view this thing in front of you, and then what you choose to do with it. And we stay in this frame of we're victims of the world, and what's going on in front of us is this thing that we collapse in front of. We go, oh no, this thing is happening, this bad thing's happening. And look, bad things happen. Don't get me wrong. It's this is a world.
100%.
Suffering exists, and as limited beings, we're subjugated to that suffering, no doubt.
100%.
But you can, whatever's in front of you, you can choose to change your point of view on it. And once you change your point of view, you start to see that the thing in front of you holds a whole lot less power when you realize that you are the one in control of how you perceive it. And so this time during quarantines and lockdowns and all that sort of stuff, it's like, yeah, you can use that to say, oh no, now I'm alone with myself. There's so much time. Or I can go, okay, great. What a gift from the universe that has been given to me, this time alone, this time where learn new skills and if you're having this aversion to being alone by yourself, now you can start to ask yourself the question, why do I have this aversion to being alone with myself?
Exactly.
And you have to go down that journey, and that's the fun one.
I think, from getting the good to the bad, like you got to have a balance. Like, when bad comes, you're going to get the good because you got to have like both of, two sides of the same coin, right? So taking a page from your book, which you can check out on every podcast streaming services. But, you have a great insight on, life in general. Like I was listening to your podcast last night and like just like the great like Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins, like just great people from different perspectives. And perspective is it's a big part, man. It's a big part in our lives.
It's the part,
Mm-hmm.
and we start to realize that we're in a subjective state, right?
Yeah.
That there is an objective reality, but we're perceiving it from where we're perceiving it.
Exactly.
And so while the objective reality is one thing, we can go, okay, I can choose to perceive it however I want to. And then the objective reality doesn't have as much power, because I can say, hey, this thing that most people might interpret as, oh, this is a negative thing. Now it's like, great, this is an opportunity for growth. This is a thing for me to overcome. This is a tool I can use to learn, what's something new about me. I had some interaction with some people on Twitter recently, and I had some feelings come up about it and go, oh, these people are saying these words about me and they're calling me these names and things like that. And I go, great. It's like, whenever I have emotions come up, as soon as I catch it, I go, congratulations, this is happening. And so I look at it and go, okay, thank you to these people that are calling me these names, and to bring out these feelings that I'm having, so I can go, oh, there's something I need to work with here. The fact that being called an idiot or something is has triggered this emotion in me. Now what is this false belief inside of me that is allowing myself to be manipulated by somebody else's words?
Absolutely.
And so somebody is saying, oh, Jimmy Jacobs, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that. That's actually a gift to me. When you look at it from that perspective, or you can look at it from the victim perspective and go, oh, they're saying this about me. This is awful, and I have all these feelings about it. Oh, these assholes.
Yeah.
But it's like, what good does that do when you start to see any circumstance you're in, and then your reaction to it, you start to go, well, what does that say about me? It's like wrestling. Like sometimes you wrestle and the crowd, they don't make any noise, and you feel like, well, it's a bad crowd. It's like, yeah, you can blame the crowd, and sometimes there's a quote unquote bad crowd, but also the true professional says, what could I have done to engage those people more? Okay, bad circumstances, but what could I have done? So in any situation you're in, as you blame somebody else, or as you point the finger at everything else that's going on, the true quester in life, the one who wants to gain knowledge, the one who wants to grow, says, that doesn't say, oh, it's all of them. Say, okay, now how did I receive that?
You take accountability, right?
I react to that, and what does that say about me? And that's the when you go from being in the victim mentality to being what I call the author of your own story.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. And as you brought up professional wrestling, we know you've been in the business for a while as both a writer and a professional wrestler. What drew you into pro wrestling? And what drew you into the business?
Yeah, so I have one older brother, and he liked wrestling, and I was his younger brother, so I liked what he liked. He actually wanted to be a pro wrestler and found a school to go to. He's 3 years older than me, so he was like getting out of high school, and I just followed him around. I was like, oh, he's going to the school. So I went the first day he went to check out the school. I went with him. I was 14 years old. It's like my the last month of the last week of my 8th grade. And, this will tell you the respectability of this particular outfit. But, I was in there taking bumps at 14 years old.
That's what it's all about.
It's like that was it. It was like, after that day, I was like, being in that ring, which to me at that point was like sacred ground, where you grow up like just wishing you could touch a ring, and there I was able to take bumps in it and play in it. You go, yeah, this is it, and that was it. That was that was 22 years ago now. So
Time flies, man. You're 36 right now, right?
I am. I'm 36. Yeah.
Man, yeah. Like I think when you you have things such as pro wrestling, and it captivates you because it really brings in a lot of people from all over the world, man. Like if it wasn't for pro wrestling, like, we wouldn't be talking right now, right? So I think it's such a great gift to like the universe, like you mentioned. But now you work for Impact, I believe, right? And you do a lot of things behind the scenes. What is it like actually behind the scenes instead of actually being in the ring?
Yeah, well, that was a transition I made about a little over 5 years ago when I started working for WWE in their creative, on their writing team. And it was a transition to make. Certainly,
Sure.
there are certain things you give up.
Sure.
One of them being, it's like when you're a performer, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody wants, no matter what they say, no matter what's talked about, the buck stops with you. And as a writer, the buck doesn't stop with you. You say, hey, let's and you have this vision, and you're trusting somebody else to carry it out. Now, sometimes that doesn't work out as the end picture isn't how you imagined it. Sometimes when you get with the great performers, and this is when you have a great relationship and you're with a great performer and you have that co-collaboration, is that you bring one thing to them and then they bring something else out of it. And
right.
Like, that's what it was like, working with, all the stuff I did with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens in WWE. It's like, I got one thing into it and they maybe brought ideas too, but then whatever the original thing was, they to life in this magnificent so great when you have performers like that. And we do have performers like that in Impact Wrestling, somebody like where I can or Rosemary, where I can give the skeleton of something, but I know that they're going to embody it and bring their souls into it to bring forth something that's magic.
Absolutely, man. You guys did a great job, with the Festival of Friendship and everything. Like, you killed it, man. I think you're a genius. Absolutely.
Yeah, speaking of the Festival of Friendship, as you said, we all know that you were a writer for the WWE, and you made a lot of magic that we witnessed in the years 2016, 2017, like the Festival of Friendship. I hear you came up with the list of Jericho, or you at least helped come up with it. What was the thought process behind some of these grand ideas, and what are some other ideas that happened or didn't happen that we possibly don't know about?
Yeah. So I came up with the list of Jericho, and we'll just use that as an example of something. There was I think we're in Memphis, and Chris is supposed to come out and air his grievances about Mick Foley or something.
Yeah.
And I said, well, he should have a list if he does this. And then I thought of Steve Carino in real life has the Carino shit list, right? What if Chris Jericho had his own list?
Right.
People that crossed him, but he was so petty that it just takes one little thing. It's just like, they make his list. And so I came to Chris with this idea, and Chris brought it to life. Chris added the I always pictured it as a crumpled up piece of paper he would have in his tights. You're like, what? And you just
made a list, yeah.
He had the they know this needs to be visual, and it's like, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
He came up with the click of the pen. You know what happens, huh? You know what happens when you make fun of my best friend Kevin Owens? You know what happens, huh? And so that's just an example of something that you conceive one way, then somebody else collaborates with it, and then the performer goes and they bring it to life in communion with the audience and feeling what the audience wants, and all of a sudden a click of the pen becomes the loudest reaction on Monday Night Raw.
It does, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they used to closed the live events towards in 2017 to some of them was, when Chris was a babyface, he would, go, what happens, Phoenix, Arizona, what happens when you cheer for Chris Jericho, what happens when you've been a great audience all night, Phoenix, Arizona, you just made the list, and that's go home, you send him home with the biggest spot, and
absolutely, man.
And so that was great. There's so many ideas that don't make it to air. It's hard to even think of one because it's just that's just the game that you play. There is you just give just a bunch of stuff, some of it gets taken, and then sometimes your idea gets so twisted in the just contorted in
it gets thrown around, man. Absolutely. And it's hard to come to grievances with one.
Yeah, that it becomes something completely different. So you don't have you learn to not be attached to your ideas. One of the worst segments that when I was there was a conception that started from an idea that I had, and it turned out it was the New Day, and they were, I forget who they were working with. I want to say,
what year was it?
It was probably 2000. So the 2016 maybe. It ended up being the New Day.
Old Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was working with?
Oh man, I forgot that year. I'm thinking maybe Cesaro and Sheamus, possibly.
Simon Gotch in English.
It might have been Gotch in English. It might have been Gallows and Anderson too.
I think so, yeah.
And so my idea was it was going to be a New Day promo, and it ended up being, I think it was Gallows and Anderson, and they changed it to where it's the Gallows and Anderson promo. But I wanted a New Day promo saying, because they did something where they went back in time.
And then Kofi did the whole Jamaican
time machine.
Yeah.
So the boom.
Yeah, where they take, because they had to establish this time machine, where they take the time machine and whoever they're going to work with, they want to see into the future to know if they're going to beat this team. So they go in there, and then old versions of themselves come out, but played by, we get actors that look like them. Instead of what they ended up getting was extras with gray, they got gray wigs on them, and I just wanted to see the New Day with looking into the future of their grandpa selves, and awesome. But then somewhere it goes from a New Day promo with actual old people playing them to a Gallows and Anderson promo doing a ha thing where you get the extras as old people, and it was this awful segment. That happens sometimes. You go, that was based off an idea I had, and just
rocket fueled off there, man. Yeah. Absolutely. But taking it from an outside perspective to an inside the ropes perspective, you had a great in-ring career. Former ROH World Tag Team Champion, and you worked with the likes of, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, just to name a few. But I'm curious to know, who was your favorite person to work with in the ring?
I had such good chemistry with BJ Whitmer.
Yeah.
In 2000, you never know who you're going to have good chemistry with.
That's true. Yeah.
Like the stuff I did with BJ Whitmer. There's a guy in Michigan named DBA. He runs XICW, and some of my favorite stuff was done that I've ever done in my whole career was done in a bar, in front of 100 people maybe with DBA, with this year-long story with me avoiding him and all this sort of stuff, and we did some awesome stuff together. And BJ Whitmer was one that was very important at that time in my career in 2006, where I was, it was the feud, it was the story that brought me from being like a low undercard guy to a guy that started to play around in per card, like
you work with the fields,
more established, and he was very important in that.
Absolutely,
yeah. Absolutely, man. Now, to our knowledge, I believe the last time you had an in-ring match was in 2018. What are the chances?
That's not true.
No. What was the last time?
I had one match this year, and then all this COVID stuff happened. But yeah, I was wrestling. Not as much as I used to, certainly, but I was wrestling all throughout 2019 as well. I mean, crap, I did, up for a company in Canada called CWE. I did, I want to say like 30 days in a row. Where they go all throughout from BC to I think we ended it in Ottawa, I want to say. So I mean that entirety of
that entirety,
yeah. So all like 30 shows in a row. I still love going out there and performing. I've got shows coming up for IW Mid-South at the end of this month. Getting back in the ring for the first time in about 6 months. So
perfect. So the question I had lined up was, could we see Jimmy Jacobs return to competing in the wrestling ring? Obviously you are. So let's switch it up. Who would you say your current dream opponent is? If you can mix it up with anyone in the ring, who would it be?
It's weird. Like, it's weird to even think in those terms. Look, I'm so out of the loop with a lot of stuff now. I'm in my Impact Wrestling bubble, right? Yeah. And even the frame of that was never like a great in-ring performer. So that's never what got my like excitement. But if you were to say, hey, who would you want to be in a story with? Who would you want to, pick up a microphone and with? It's like, yeah, there we go. Doing something, and this is, pie in the sky, but it's like, a story with John Cena that gets me going. And standing in a mic with a microphone in a ring, with him and talking, like that gets me excited. And so, that's really what it like at least the frame I've taken for a while. Even now to go, okay, who would you want to, be on TV and do a story with and see something develop, and you can have twists and turns and that sort of stuff. Being just in one match is like, yeah, you can probably do some stuff and match with a lot of people, and it's all good.
So you'd say your dream feud is John Cena?
Oh, I mean, if we're saying like anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place, I would say Mick Foley.
Foley.
He's probably my favorite of all time. Something about him just, man.
It makes you feel, man. It really makes you feel for his character.
He gets me right in the spot where I like pro wrestling. I remember, he was my favorite as when I was like, 14, 15. He was like my hero. And then working with him over the years and creating, I would say friendship, but, we're close enough. And he's a great person as well, which is awesome. But I remember in some point in the last, he was doing a thing on Raw, and we were in Detroit, and Stephanie was like firing him. He was like the general manager, and Stephanie was firing him.
I remember that, yeah.
And I remember watching that from the back, and like it just got me. Like Mick, I remember at that point thinking like, man, if this guy wasn't my guy at 15 years old, and I was 31, like watching for the first time, like that would be my guy. And he brought me in and made me, remember like what I love about pro wrestling, the particular flavor that I like to go for. And he gets me right in that spot when he comes with those emotional promos. And Mick was a great guy too. You have something for him, and he really would bring it to life. And he would put that extra care, and this was great. I loved having talent like this that would put that because I can't be Mick Foley better than Mick Foley is. And even if I try to, I'm not going to think of all the layers and all the different perspectives and cover all my bases like Mick and do that. And Mick took, I remember, particular interest in trying to make something out of the there was like a best of 7 series with Cesaro
and Sheamus. Yeah.
And Mick brought that to life so much. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
Thing that I think at that point people didn't want to see Cesaro versus Sheamus. They didn't want to see it. And Mick just as commissioner, so he's like, it's his job to make it seem like it's a good idea to see matches that people don't want to see. And he really brought himself into it and added such layers with it. And those guys are such great performers too, that by the end of it, I think we're in Indianapolis, and it was for a pay-per-view, and that's when we blew off the best of 7 with those guys, and they stole the effing show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so man, Mick Foley is that's my guy.
He's really good, man. One of the goats.
One of the greatest of all time. But switching gears here a little bit, on our podcast, for one of our topics, we like to tap into mental health. So if you're comfortable sharing, of course, have you ever struggled with your mental health, and what message would you give to people watching who could be struggling?
For sure. Well, I think that's a it's a loaded question. I don't say that in a bad way. It's just there's a lot of stuff. And you say, wait, it's like, first of all, what do you mean by mental health? What do we mean by that? And so it's really, part of it is taking care of yourself in every way possible. I did about a 10-minute video. A buddy of mine, Jackson Stone, does a podcast called, he does something called You Are Loved, and he also has I forget what his podcast is exactly called, but he asked me to do a video about just my experience with mental health, and I did about a 10-minute video about depression, and that's something that for a long time that I struggled with, and I self-medicated for years, and I had an addiction to opioids for years. I ended up going to rehab in 2017, and when I was in rehab, that there where we're self-medicating. That so many people there were it's either depression or anxiety or bipolar, and it's just that's I look back at my time using drugs, where I understand the utility of them. This isn't to put them on a pedestal, but this is I'm a person that can look at it and not go, oh, they were the worst thing ever. I can understand their destructive force, but I can also say that's all I knew how to do.
Yeah.
Get myself. It was like a flotation device.
It was like an escape, yeah.
To get myself above water, because I have the tools to do that. And I went to rehab about 3 years ago, and still suffered from this thing we call depression. And it wasn't until about 5 months ago that I've been doing so much work over the past 3 years, doing this journey, all this inner work, the shadow work, all this sort of stuff. And it was about 4 or 5 months ago that I got off the antidepressants that I was on.
Yeah.
And part of that was look, they held their space for me for a long time. For 10 years, they held space for me to help me do what I wasn't able to do for myself or didn't know how to do for myself. And so sometimes we get fed a story that like, hey, because this is the pharmaceutical industry. They go, okay, this is the solution. The solution to your problem is my product. And you go, okay, yeah, maybe. And for some people it is. And for me it was for a long time. You go, is this the optimal solution?
Mm-hmm.
You go, well, maybe it's not. Maybe if I learn how to create harmony and balance in my body, mind, soul complex. Maybe if I understand how my body works to, help with these. If you want to say, well, it's a deficiency of serotonin deficiency. It's like, yeah, maybe that's where depression comes from, and that's maybe you can go down that rabbit hole too and start to see if you believe that depression is caused from a serotonin deficiency. But you go, well, how do I create help my body in order to create what it needs to create to no longer have these feelings of, for me, depression was really like low energy, and God, I would spend like 22 hours a day in bed. I would be so depressed that I couldn't even put anything new on the TV. It's like just put it on because my mind can't even process new information, right?
Yeah.
And so it can be very bad. It was very bad, and but the solution isn't easy. It's not easy.
It takes a lot of time, man. Absolutely.
Nothing of value easy. And that's something that we're missing today a lot in our age of convenience. With all the information you could ever want is at the tip of your fingertips, where I can press a button and food gets delivered to me. And in doing I don't need to know how to make food. I don't need to know where it comes from. I don't need to know how to grow it. I don't need to know anything. I can just press it. And so it's like, great, that's great. But also, what have I lost because of this convenience? What I've lost is the connection to my food. What I've lost is the knowledge of how to grow. What I've lost is the ability to make it. All sorts of things are taken away through convenience, right? And in this age where, God, it's so convenient. It's convenient that you and me, we can just talk. Like, how convenient, but also the things that are worthwhile. I mean, they call it worth. Why? They are worth time because it takes. So what I would say to people who are struggling, and there's a lot of people that are struggling, understand that the solution is not easy. It's not just a matter of going, well, somebody else will take care of it, or hopefully they make medicine for it, or hopefully they can give me a pill, and that's going to make it better. Not to say there's not a function for that. Like I said, please don't misconstrue. I had people mention this interaction I had online, people calling me dangerous for what I was saying, for saying, hey, I was able to get myself off of antidepressants and I've never felt better. They called that dangerous. That's dangerous to and look, I'm not saying for anybody else to do anything else. I'm saying that when we outsource the solution to our problems to something else, to somebody else, to say, oh, if you can make a pill for it, that'll make it all better. Then you are then susceptible to going, okay, well, I'm just going to have a pill and that's it. The true solution is the practices and creating an environment of harmony with you and this. Where you have a healthy mind.
You have a good mindset towards things like that, man.
With Mother Earth, with community, with all these dimensions that create health, and it's the harmony in all of them that create mental health. And that's when we talk about things like harmony and balance and all this sort of stuff. That's why it's so important, because if this is off balance, the system is off balance.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes, well, how do I take care of myself? I talk about all the, and I'm, I know this is just one question. I'm going a long time about it, but there's a lot to it. And I shared practice like every day. Like, so when I got a rehab, I didn't know what to do, but I knew that they say one thing: make your bed every day, and that's what I did. I made bed every day, because at least that it was just something to build off of. Even if I'm in a hotel, I make my bed, because at least it's one thing. It's one actual thing I did. Now it's like I got my thing here. It's like wake up, seated meditation, make bed, cold shower, supplements, affirmations, guided meditation, water garden, lemon water with herbs, grounding, sun gazing, toning, systemic exercises, like all of that in a row, then qigong, and just like all of that in a row, like starts to create this thing where I'm using my body, where I'm using my mind, where I'm getting myself in a space where it's raising your vibration. It's raising your vibration. Man. So these things the things that we've given names for, like depression, so they don't grab a hold of you as you rise above it. And that has to do with your practices and how you live. And I know that's really hard to tell somebody when they're in it. If you had told me for 10 years, for 12 years, hey man, like, you're the answer here. This thing that you're calling depression, this thing that you've given a life to. I used to say, I'm depressed. And even by saying that, I am depressed, what does that do? That identifies as the depression, saying, I am depressed. And you had told me before that there was something other than a chemical imbalance that I was a victim to, I wouldn't have believed you. I had to go on my journey to go, I think I got this. I think I can rise above it. No, I yes, antidepressants held their space for a long time. That was a tool, but that's not the one I need right now. Now I'm at the point where I go, what can I do every single day to make sure that I'm not in bed for 22 hours a day, staring at my phone, looking at my phone, doing all this stuff? What are the practices that I can do to rise above that, to not experience low energy, but to access the energy of the universe? Because that's all this is energy vibrating at different frequencies. How do I access the energy that's already here, the energy that's stored in my body, the energy Mother Earth has, the energy that's all here? It's all here. And it's for my taking if I understand how to access it. And that takes it takes time, and it takes digging. And as I'm learning this stuff, I go, why wasn't I taught this as a child?
Exactly, yeah.
Why aren't we all taught this sort of stuff?
I agree.
And that just goes down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. But I think meditation is a great way.
Answer why we're not taught it. Because if you find out that you're the answer to what you need, and Mother Earth is the answer to what you need, then other things are out of business. That's why we're not taught it. So be helpless. Be helpless to the world, so we can offer a product, and whether it's a medication or or these nice Lululemon pants I have over here, or this app or whatever this is here. If you are not complete without this thing I'm offering you, and so if we give you a feeling of incompleteness, then you will try to complete yourself in every other way possible.
Absolutely, man.
Find that the answer is in you.
It's always been in you, man.
It's always in you.
Always there.
That's the, like, I tell people this, it's like, that's the thing you're looking for. It's like, it's right in front of you.
You know what?
Right,
Absolutely.
you know, that's it. It's like the allegory I love the most is the Wizard of Oz, and you have, you know, Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, and they want these things, and they think the great and powerful Oz will give them things.
Yeah.
And so they go on their journey, the call to adventure, and they go down the Yellow Brick Road, and they fight the Wicked Witch of the West, and they get to the great and powerful Oz. And what they find is this thing that they thought was great and powerful. It's fake. It's nothing. It's
nothing.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion of what you thought it was from before.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't get.
The thing that they've been looking for, they've had the whole time.
Exactly. It's in them. They didn't discover it yet. That's the thing, man. It's crazy.
That's what life is. It's like, yes, go on your adventure, but understand that, you know, if you think winning the WWE Championship is going to find you fulfillment and happiness, guess what? It doesn't. I promise you it doesn't. Because I have friends that have been WWE champion and they have not been happy. And so it's like, how could you think that, like, we go, oh, well, you know, it's destination addiction. It's thinking that, like, oh, as soon as I, you know, when you're on an independence, oh, as soon as I get signed by WWE, that's what I want. It's like, yeah, that's good for like a second. And then there's the next second.
Exactly. Reality kicks in.
There that are so miserable, and then they go, well, as soon as I get the W championship, I'll be good. And you go, oh, they're not, and you go, well, then what is it? It's like, because you're thinking that it's something else, but the thing at the other side of your dream is just you.
It's just you, yeah.
You're at the other side of your dream. It's just you waiting for you. So you better make sure that you is good. That's what this is, man. Like, I tell everybody, like, take fucking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
If you want to be, you know, people look at the world and they see it's falling apart and they see all this awful stuff, especially if you watch the news, it's just madness and chaos. Like, what do? What you can do is get your shit together. What you can do is take care of yourself. Because once you take care of yourself, you start to realize that you've got so much you can give it away. And now you have now you can go and be proactive in the world because you're good. You know, when the plane goes down, you put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting people next to you, right? That's because you got to be good. And so it's like, take care of yourself. If you're no good to the rest of us, if you're depleted, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's like, how do I take care of myself? It's like, yes, that should be your concern. That should be everybody's concern. And that's not selfish. That's not selfish to take care of yourself first.
That's yourself first.
That's how it needs to work, because you're no good to the rest of us if you're depleted. You take care of yourself, and once you take care of yourself, then you can take care of everybody else.
Absolutely.
But it takes work, man. That's the long.
It takes work and time, you know. So.
Yeah, and like you said earlier when you said, why aren't we taught this from a young age? It's funny because I was thinking about this because I recently had started university, and it's like little things like, oh, we buy all these textbooks, and you hear so much stuff about these students being depressed. And I'm thinking in my head, you know what would make them all less depressed? Because you get a degree in one subject. Why are all these students these college students subjected to taking multiple subjects? It's because they don't care if the students are depressed. They want them to buy all the textbooks for all the classes. That way they can make all their money. They want them to pay more tuition for more classes.
Yeah.
It's a spiraling thing.
It's astronomical. I'm not, that efficient, and I don't want to speak out of my, I don't want to call expertise, but my frame of knowledge. But certainly, I mean, the costs of going to college are just astronomical, and then they keep you in debt, and that's a debt that you can't get rid of. It's
exactly, yeah.
talk about indentured servitude, there you go. That's it. It's you go to college for this thing called a degree, you pay all this money, and then you are working your way to pay off. I mean, it's literally indentured servitude. And you go, well, what is this? How do we, how, in so much of my time over the past months, is like, how do you break out of these things that we're taught to be, because people need to understand, like, human brains are programmable, right?
Absolutely.
They're literally programmable. This isn't controversial. It's like they're programmable. And so what do you think is programming things? You don't think that, like, that there is that people don't. I mean, geez, I was just watching the social dilemma on. It's like, yes, of course, they're trying to get us to. There are people with agendas to try to get people to act certain ways, and to try to break free from that. And what does it mean to think for yourself? And what does it mean to act for yourself and become a sovereign being without these attachments and so many of these influences? And how do you go, okay, what is me? Where are my thoughts? Where are they coming from? And it's, man, these things start to break down really quickly. I was talking to one of my friends about, God, this is also such random stuff, but
Talk good, man.
about bacon, right? And he's like, you know where bacon came from? And so about 100 years ago, he wrote the book Propaganda. His name's Bernays. I forget his first name. His nephew was Freud, I believe, and I might be wrong with that. Or he was Freud's nephew. One of the two. And so basically, the animal agriculture business, they wanted to sell more pig products, and they go to him. They go, how do we sell more pig products? And he gets his doctor friend. He pays his doctor friend, and who then gets 5,000 of his other doctor friends to say that part of a healthy diet is a hearty breakfast. And part of a hearty breakfast is bacon. And that was a marketing ploy 100 years ago, under the idea that a hearty breakfast is good for you, and maybe it isn't, maybe it's not. I don't know. I haven't been down that rabbit hole exactly. But you go, okay, and so here I am in 2020, and I want bacon for breakfast, and I think it's my thought. I think that I thought, hey, I'm gonna eat bacon for breakfast. Like, no, that wasn't your thought. That was Bernays' thought 100 years ago, and now you're thinking it. And so you start to see how
there's a lot of illusions and perspectives, and I think that plays in a lot of, like, our everyday lives. So man, you're right on that one.
Of course, it plays into our everyday lives, and so so without getting too, like, in the weeds with some of this stuff, it's important, to this is the thing that can happen. Is you start to go into these down rabbit holes, and those just become new stories. They become new stories to grip you and go, oh, instead of the instead of the Republicans being bad or the Democrats being bad, it's the Illuminati that's bad. And it's like, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, fair enough. But the issue is, you can just get lost in that, and then you become a victim of that. It's like, okay, great. How do I just have a perspective of going, hey man, this is me. This is my world. This is my consciousness. This is my sovereignty. How do I not be controlled by all these outside influences? In your life, in a larger sense, how do I become somebody who can be in the middle of a hurricane? And that's what I've tried to do, is go, okay, no matter what's going on around me, it's fine. Let me stay strong, or stay sturdy, or stay courageous. Maybe is the word for it. Courageous, no matter what else is going on. and there's a lot of power in that, and there's a lot of responsibility in that too.
Absolutely, yeah. But man, wow, what a great insight. Jimmy Jacobs, man. Oh yeah. But you talked about psychedelics on your podcast, and that intrigued me, man. Like, it literally spoke to me. Like, I was literally it was like 5 a.m. last night, right? And I was just like bored. I was like, man, I'm just gonna listen to an episode of his podcast. And it was the one with PJ Black, and you guys got into some serious shit, man. I was like, yo, that is insane, because I didn't even think of things like that, right? I wasn't taught things like that. It was very different from, you know, religion and how you grow up and stuff. So walk me through what it was like being on psychedelics, because how often do you do psychedelics?
Not that often anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the last time I was like, hey, I'm gonna take some and, you know, have an experience. I mean, you're probably talking about like, boy, April, May. I mean, that was the last time I really said, hey, you know, I microdose sometimes.
Yeah.
But psychedelics have been, you know, again, this isn't me, you know, promoting anybody else to do anything they want to do. And that we have to start to put a delineation between, look, here's the deal. Yes, we are all one. This is true. This is true from the highest sense that that we are all one thing, that we are all points of consciousness of basically of the same being. We're basically different eyes of one thing, right?
Absolutely.
And everything is one. That is the truth of things. But we come and we play this game of duality. We experience ourselves. We experience us as other people, as the universe, right? So but I got in me saying this, we need to put a delineation between what people say and ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Psychedelics are this. Even if I say, hey, go use psychedelics, there's in between what I say and what you do, and that's your free will. And it's really important we start to recognize this. I promote this a lot, and I'll get the psychedelic questions, but I promote this because we often, you know, one of the things I limited my vocabulary about 3 years ago was you made me mad. He made me mad.
Yeah.
Nobody has the power to make me. I can experience anger, but if I say, you know, Danial made me mad, what I'm saying is, here, Danial, here's my strengths. Here's my emotional strengths. Based on what you say, you can just play me like a puppet. You can do, oh, he made me mad. He made me do it. And start to realize that, hey, there is a separation in between what you do and my reaction to it, and that's me.
Absolutely.
And my free will. So I just want to say that just in general, because it that takes you out of the victim mentality and seeing everybody else as victims too, or going, hey, everybody's got their free will. Say, don't be compassionate to people. Say, if I you know, share my experience with getting off of antidepressants, and somebody says, oh, that's dangerous, somebody else try that, you go, hey, stop viewing other people as victims. This person has the free will to do whatever they want, and I encourage you to embrace that. They have free will. So listen to anything I say. Listen to everything I say. Use your own free will. Really, what you want to do, what you should do, is listen skeptically to what I say. Do your own research and figure out how wrong I am, if I am wrong, and then look at the other side of it, and then figure out how wrong that is, and look at the other side of it and figure out, you know, how wrong that is, and make your own decision, because that's what it comes down to. That's what you start to see that for every expert, there is an opposing expert, somebody with the exact same amount of time in their field of expertise that says the exact opposite thing. That's what happens when you start to look around. And then you have to go, why believe this over this? And that, you know, that becomes your rabbit hole to go down.
Absolutely.
So So psychedelics have been extremely beneficial in my journey. They were the first thing, taking acid, 5 years ago was the first time that I got to see outside of my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that we all view the world from a point of view, and start to confuse that point of view with reality. We start to confuse perspective with reality. And it's not reality. Reality is infinite, actually. And so how could one perspective be reality? Mm-hmm. And acid was the first thing to allow me to go, oh, wait, this is a perspective, and this is just a perspective. And the way our rules are, our laws are, these are just, they're constructs. So
it made you think out of the box. And I think, when people say, when like you talked about, it's inside you, as in like that gift is inside you and you just have to find it. I feel like once you tap into these like zones in your head, you're just like, man, it is really inside me. It just takes a certain extent to tap into that. And I think once you tap into it, you realize so much that like there is a greater good, and it's much bigger, and you just haven't discovered it yet. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because like I said, we get our perspective confused with reality.
Absolutely.
We think we've been conditioned to think we're these small beings, and we interact with the world out of lack, going, oh, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. I need somebody else to complete me, and I need this
mm-hmm.
job, and I need this car, and I need this thing, and I need the whatever it is, and it can be anything. It can be like, I need, for me, one of my things is, I need answers. I need answers to this. I need answers to that, and we're conditioned to come from this place of lack, and starting to realize that there is no lack, that you are a part of this great whole, and that you are it, that it is you and you are it, and that you're not just this being that's a victim to the world, that you're helpless in your circumstances. Mm-hmm. You are the universe expressing itself as I am the universe expressing itself as Chris, experiencing itself as Chris. It's like, whoa, boy, you fucking start to wrap your head around some of that shit.
That's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff.
And so psychedelics did that for me. And I use them much more sparingly now, because now it's like, before I used to take it once a month, once every other month, to just sort of remind me of like, my connection to things and the person I wanted to be, and this sort of stuff. It sort of, when you're on that, you let go of fear, and you let go of insecurities, and you let go of the stories that you have in your head, right?
Absolutely.
Neural pathways, because we run down, basically what happens, we run down the same neural pathways over and over and over and over again. It becomes so ingrained, and then you take psychedelics, and now your neural pathways, now you take new routes, and you start to see things from new perspective, that the thing you thought was reality, because you've run down this perspective so often.
Yeah.
You realize, that's not reality. It's just perspective. This fear, I don't need to have this fear. I don't need to have the story that I'm not good enough, that I'm less than, that this and that. And so I used to take psychedelics to remind me of that. And, more recently, they've taken a turn where, one of the things they can do is, so you start to realize, look, we're living in infinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Infinity, and we're living in infinity.
Right.
And humans, if anything, are like antennas, sort of. It's like we can, so there's all this, there's frequency going on. There's fucking infinite frequency going on, and we can see the visible light, right, from red to violet. But there's animals that can see ultraviolet and infrared, and can't perceive we only hear from different, frequencies, right?
Frequencies, right? Mm-hmm.
And so basically, humans are tuned into, it's like one station of TV. It's like one station. We perceive one station. But one of the things psychedelics can do is to allow you to perceive more of the frequencies that are there. And that's one thing that psychedelics have opened up for me recently. And now you're starting to play into, the different frequencies and the different things that are in these different frequencies, and it's like that gets into some, walking into some territory that it's deep, and it's
absolutely, man.
Your territory. Once you go, it's like, it's so silly because a year ago I thought things were how they are. This is I'm seeing it, and now I realize, that's so ridiculous. Like, there's so many things, and we're just tuned into one little thing. I've got my little eyes, and I can see this, and in 36 years I've experienced this, and we're living in infinity. And yeah, man. So you go, there's all sorts of other things, and there's other beings, and there's all sorts of stuff that we can't perceive, and we grow up, and we just think we think that this is the way it is. What's news is true, and what's in our textbooks is true.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the Truman Show. We accept the reality that's put in front of us unquestionably, and once you start to break down
it's crazy when you break things down. Yeah.
And it's like, it's so much more fun. It's more fun to go, oh man, there's alternative, there's alternative views of history, alternative things in history, there's this one guy named Robert Sepper, Sepehr, who has videos on YouTube. He's a anthropologist or archaeologist, I forget which one, I can never remember.
I think I heard of him, yeah.
He uses a bunch of primary resources to talk about things in the past, and it's fascinating because he touches on a bunch of stuff that we were not taught, that we don't learn about. And so when this guy puts up 24 newspaper articles in a row of finding remains of giant bones in the United States in the 1800s, early 1900s. 24 newspapers from the New York Post or New York Times, I forget which one. But 24 different newspaper articles of finding giant bones, giant remains, and you start to go down the rabbit hole of, do giants exist? It's like,
exactly,
holy crap! And that's crazy. Really quickly go, holy cow! Wait, giants? Are you? What else? What else could exist? Now, look, I'm not saying that giants necessarily exist. I'm saying there are people that claim this, that have a lot of evidence to show that giants exist. Look, there are textbooks that say giants don't exist. There's other people who have dedicated their lives to this sort of craft that say, no, for sure, giants exist. I exist in the middle of those things where I go, wow, one group is saying this, another group is saying this. And, there's a lot of good evidence over here. And isn't it so much more fun to live in a world where giants exist?
Exactly, right? It's crazy.
Or at least, how about this? If, whoever's listening to this, go on the ride that says giants might exist. Go on that ride. That ride's fun to go down. Go down the ride that takes away your preconceived notions of things and goes, yeah, giants might exist, and fairies might exist, and gnomes might exist. All the if you go to this cryptozoology, it's like
you just get wrapped up in it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and now I live in a world, of course, aliens exist and spirits exist. All like, that's the world I live in now. Whether that exactly true, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
But that's the world I live in.
I don't blame you, man. It's a great, great insight, great perspective on life itself. But what does life mean to you, man? Like, generally speaking.
Yeah. So life is a gift. It's a gift that we're given in this incarnation to, I think, experience. First of all, I think sometimes we go, yeah, what's the meaning of life? And then maybe this is the Alan Watson me talking, but going like this is the meaning of life. This right here, this like that's it. Being alive is the point to life. But I would go, and so it's a great, but you got to do something, right? You got to do something. It's like, and so it's good to have, principles or ideas in front of you. You go, well, what drives me to this? I do think that we're put on this planet to experience it and to learn from it and grow from it.
Absolutely.
And time that is spent, the greatest thing you can do, I think, is try to grow from the things that are in front of you.
Absolutely.
As opposed to try to be a victim from this. Oh yeah, it's a bad crowd tonight. It's like, yep, it's a bad crowd, but how can we make this? What tools can I use to make this bad crowd?
How can you come back from that? Right.
Liven up, and that's what this game's about. Is going.
Absolutely.
Going. Let me see everybody's perspective. Let me try to grow my perspective. Understand your perspective. Not fight against like. This is this thing. We have this idea that like, oh, people need to agree with me, or they need to think like I think, or it's like nobody thinks how you think.
Exactly.
There's 7 billion people in the world, maybe, I don't know, out there, and not one person has the same perspective that you do. Not one. So why are you trying to like be like you're fighting with a reality going
exactly
like I'm thinking? It's like, yeah, no shit, man. Instead of trying to combat somebody's perspective, you go, let me accept your perspective, and then after I accept it, I can then try to understand
it. Yeah,
I can grow, and if I feel like I'm called to, then and only then, if I feel like I'm called to try to make help your perspective grow, it's like, yeah, I can do that. I can offer it out there, right? And that's I came back to social media just to try to do some of that, just to offer some tools that have been beneficial to me.
Absolutely.
One when I was a drug addict that was was impulsively controlled by emotion, to somebody now who is generally at peace, and I still struggle with the things I struggle with, and
we all do, man. Yeah.
But the tools that I have that I look back at me 3.5 years ago, and it's like, holy crap, man! Like,
came a long way,
dude. It gets me emotional because it's like, fuck, it's a long way.
It's a long way, man. Yeah.
It took work, and it took the grace and the patience of other people, and all sorts of infinite things that I'm grateful for to help me on my journey. But it's like, yeah, you can do it. You can go from being the thing you were to being something greater. You have that power.
Absolutely. I think you evolve as time goes on. I think that's the most important thing. Like, you have to evolve and kind of fit into the current times, because if you think about like reminiscing is fine. Like, I reminisce all the time, right? So it's like, man, I wish this and this, but you're living in the present. What can you do in the present? Because you're going to be looking at it from 10 years now, like to this very moment. You're going to be like, man, I was talking to Jimmy Jacobs, I wish I did this. You might as well just do it, right? So it's full circle, man. That's crazy. Like, I love the perspective that you have. It's like, it changed like the way I think for the better, because it's like, I didn't think of it that way, right? And it's always good to have other people's opinion, like Vikram's and like yours, and it's very cool, man.
I love it when people have what I love is when people have a perspective and it's thought out, and it's, you know, entrenched in something, or like, you know, there's something, there's substance. What, personally, in my taste, and this is something that it's like, oh, what does that say about you? That I don't care for. It's like, when people they're just sort of subscribed to an ideology, or it's just like, oh yeah, this I'm believing what everybody else is believing because I heard this one thing one time, and it's like, that's not, you don't want to be led by that. Like,
exactly.
Like, who wants to be led by this? Who wants their lives to be led by just like some things they heard on the news here, or some things they heard there, and just assuming that whatever they heard, that's right. Like, oh, they got this information right. And that's what happens. It's like when you outsource knowledge to other people, you become a victim of not knowing these things.
Exactly, yeah.
So, whether it's, let's say a doctor, and you go, well, they have this knowledge, I don't have it. And well, how do I start to have this knowledge? How do I start to have a knowledge about my body? How do I start to have a knowledge about what I put in my body, how my body operates, all these sort of things that are actually really important.
Right.
It's like, it's really like, some of this stuff I'm looking at, like, why don't I know this stuff? Why don't I know, like, I took like a survival training course for this time. It's like, why don't I know how to build a fire? Why don't I know how to, filter water or create a, like, if I need to survive, like, how come we don't know this? How come these aren't like fundamental, like, these should be the building blocks, like, at first, like, people should learn how their bodies work, what to put in their bodies, how to survive, how to defend themselves, basically how to be self-sufficient with Mother Earth. That should be the primary, like, lessons that we teach people. And now I grow up, I go, why at 36 am I learning?
It's a weird thing, man. I think the system's been corrupted for a while, right?
The system really needs improvements.
Well, it's like, yeah, the system needs improvement, but it's like, how do you improve the system? And the answer that I've come to is improving. I don't want to say it like this, but like improving the people,
right?
More or less. That's more or less what it is. Like,
for sure, yeah.
Like creating less reliance on right there. Like, because right now it's like the system's bad. Look, the system, it's both bad and good. Because look, we're talking. Yeah. This is amazing. Make no mistake. It's a bloody miracle that I'm in a house and there's air conditioning and you and we're talking and all this sort of stuff. But for whatever good is, there's a trade-off. We've traded something off, right? And well, there's a lot of bad in this system. And you go, how do we fix the bad? Well, what I found is be less reliant on the system, so its badness doesn't
affect you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And help people, empower other people to do that for themselves.
For sure, yeah.
Once where the supply or the demand for this bad system is gone, there'll be a new demand, a demand for a system that supports that helps support a new kind of people.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
It's not like the one answer. It's just the answer.
There's a lot of them.
is to go, well, yeah, this is what happens when we're reliant on fiat currency, which is just made up. It's made money. It's like, it's just an idea. We just agree and then, and this is what happens when we're reliant on, when we acquiesce to the government, go, you can't run your business and things like that. And so yeah, I mean, look, these are very, very, very complex issues. That's the deal.
Sure.
Very complex issues. But so it's like, how do you tackle these things that are very complex? The thing to do is to work on yourself as much as possible to be able to be strong in a system that's messy.
Exactly.
In the storm, in the hurricane, and to also be strength and courageous for others as well.
Absolutely. I think that's like the main goal, that's the main point. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. But like with everything you've been through in life, and you've still made it as far as you have in the wrestling business and the things you wanted to accomplish, what message would you give to a younger version of yourself that could be watching this, who's going through the struggle?
I mean, look, if I have one regret, let's call it, in my career, it's that I didn't enjoy it more. That's like, it was, I let the ups and downs so much. And even with the ups, and I see this all the time. It's even when you're at a high point, you're just worried about that collapsing, or you're worried about getting to the next point, or what. And that's just, it's like, hey man, enjoy where you're at.
For sure.
Where you're at is like, it's
only gonna happen once, man. You gotta live in the moment.
Wherever you are is exactly where you need to be. Exactly. And like I said, man, the thing waiting for you on the other side of your dream is just you. And that's it. So it's like, yes, there's a great moment in accomplishment. There is. But also then there's the next moment. And so to project into the destination, into this destination, something, the great and powerful Oz, to project it, this destination, this thing, it's not there. It's an illusion. And so be here on the journey, and just like in this moment. And this moment is where you want to be. Not that you don't aim for something, because of course you aim for something. That's part of it, right? Part of it is like, it's the balance between now and moving, right? That is right. Being content with what you have, with aiming for something more. This constantly balance, right? And so yeah, it's just like, enjoy this. I have to remind myself even now. I was, a couple months ago, I was cleaning the counters in my bathroom, and this voice goes, you're cleaning this as if to get it done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good, it was a criticism. Call it. It was like, you're doing this as if to get it done, saying, why not just do this? Why not be here? And when you clean the counters. Be the guy cleaning the counters right now, and that's okay. Like, that's good. That's perfect. It's perfect to clean the counters, and perfect to be here. Like, why am I trying to move to somewhere else? Like, to get it done with. It's like, it'll be done at some point.
It'll be done, right? Crazy.
Be here now, and there's no more profound wisdom than to be here in the moment in every way possible. That's it. Like, that is like the key to everything.
That's true, man. You gotta live in the moment, enjoy it, because it only comes once.
That's it,
man. That's life. But I like to ask this question to all our guests. What's the next chapter for Jimmy Jacobs?
I took a 7-month break from social media, and I came back just really to share some insights through some videos, some tools that have been beneficial to me in my journey. And, you know, what I'd like to start moving towards is something that, you know, I don't know if it's life coaching exactly, but maybe something
Right.
in that realm of things. I love interacting with people, and there's a lot of things I see more clearly, you know, than I used to, where I think my
For sure.
perspective can be of support to some people. So I think that's ultimately what I'm where my headspace is at. Like, how do I support people? How do I share what I have with people that are ready for it? There's some people that will hear what I say and say, oh, it's dangerous and it's nonsense and he's out there and all sorts of stuff. Giants, he believes in giants, you know, and they'll just do like as a thing to go, he's crazy. You go, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
I think we're all crazy to a certain extent.
In our own ways, yeah.
But it's like if you want to go on the ride, I think I have something to offer in that sense. I hope that I do. And
Absolutely.
So that's some of where my head's at nowadays, is trying to figure out, you know, it's the thing I'm passionate about, certainly, and
Sure.
and it's like, I think in life you try to figure out like where your passion, your talent, and the way you can be best of service to people, where those three things intersect. At least that's the model I've created. And you would call something like that your highest purpose, and trying to optimize my highest purpose on this planet.
That's great stuff, man.
It's amazing.
I'm really happy for you.
Yeah. So, to wrap things up, we always like to play a quick game with our guests. So we have a list of 10 names in the professional wrestling business, and you can either use one word or one sentence to describe each of them.
You want me to be short with my answers? I don't know. All right, I'll do my best.
All right, we're gonna start off with Seth Rollins.
On the journey.
Yeah.
He's on, if you listen to I'll expound a little bit. If you listen to our podcast, which we did a year ago with him, like he's on the journey, and you know, there's
a lot of things, man. There's a lot of things to grasp.
More for him. There's more for him. I think. Like I'm excited. You know, I'm excited to see where he's gonna be a father pretty soon here. So
yeah.
For sure. Daniel Bryan.
Oh, man, I love him. Hey, return my phone call. How about that?
Kenny Omega.
Garden in my backyard, and he lives. You know, he's like one of the only other people that's in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area that I know. And I moved here. And I was like, hey, I moved here, and just it's been like a radio silence from that guy. So
Probably busy.
Yeah, probably.
He's, but like, I'm growing a garden, and I need support in my garden.
Daniel Bryan.
Tag Daniel Bryan and say, hey, Jimmy Jacobs needs help with his garden.
We
You
will.
heard it here, folks. Let's do it. But Kenny Omega.
Boy, unique, eccentric wrestling genius.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Chris Jericho.
Oh boy, man. Starting to make a claim to be, I mean, in the discussion for the greatest of all time.
I would say he's the GOAT, straight up.
I mean, I've like from going to what we did in 4 years ago to what he did in New Japan, to what to being the guy that really helped catapult AEW. I mean, it's there's a case to be made for that guy.
He's really fucking good, man. Straight
definitely. Definitely. But speaking of AEW, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
Fucking smart, very, very smart, and he's one of the, got to give him a lot of credit for, one of the guys, like generally speaking, from my experience, so keep these things short, from my experience, generally speaking, like the where guys ended up kind of in WWE, like as far as like where they were on the card was about, there weren't a lot of like injustices where it's like, oh, that guy should really be hired. Because once you start to work with some of the guys, you go, oh, I see why they've never pushed that next level, whatever. And Cody is a guy like in WWE, he had a good run, a hell of a run, but probably not what he wanted to be, and got outside of the WWE system and showed his value. And you have to give somebody immense credit and respect.
He's killing it right now, man. Absolutely. Yeah, but Kevin Owens.
Kevin's one of my best friends. I love that guy. I love
He's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of best friends, Kevin Owens, one of his best friends, Sami Zayn.
I love Sami Zayn too. Sami and I speak because, I mean, he's somebody that has a different perspective that I do, politically.
Yeah.
and with, well, I'd say like in the worldview. He's he's a he likes like Noam Chomsky and things like that. He's some just socialism kind of more of that frame, like change the system, and I'm frame of like change the people, change the system.
It's like around the same branches. You know what I mean?
To me, the change is bottom up, not top down. Now the truth is that there's a balance there, right?
There's a balance, right?
Both. And so Sammy's a guy he's one of my favorite people in the world. And recently he's a guy that gets to challenge me because he has a perspective that I don't have. And sometimes I want to fight with it, and sometimes I try to enroll him in my point of view.
Yeah. That's good though, man.
He's an amazing person, an amazing performer.
Absolutely. The Young Bucks.
Young Bucks they're legends, man. They're
definitely.
They're like fucking legends. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. PJ Black.
PJ. I didn't know PJ really at all until we did that podcast about a year ago, and PJ opened up my mind to a whole new world.
He knows so much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Look back at that, like at that time, I didn't understand anything he was talking about.
Yeah.
And now a year later, I go, oh yeah, of course. It's like, of course, all this stuff, or not, of course, exactly, but like,
it starts to make sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's this world is so much more interesting and so much crazier and more amazing than I could have ever imagined once I let go of this idea that I knew anything, right?
Exactly.
And that podcast is called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know, because it's much better to go, yeah, man, I don't know shit. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm open to all of it. And once I became open to all of it, all like so much started coming up, and look, not say I have the answers now. And when you're open to everything, certainly it's like, well, you're susceptible to this and you're susceptible to that. But so is thinking that you know everything, thinking that your understanding of the world is the understanding of the world to have, that is susceptible as well, because whatever your assumptions are of the world, they're based on somebody else's knowledge of something. Because all of our knowledge is based on, my life changed when I realized, oh, the stuff I thought was knowledge before, actually a belief. I believe the things I read. I believe the things that somebody said on TV. I believed what somebody said to me. I believed what was in a book. Like I believed it. That's actually not knowledge. That's belief. And starting to delineate between the two. Once you start to go there, once you start to say like, hey, I don't know whether the earth is flat or round. Look, I believe it's round, but I'm saying I don't know that. based off of kind of what everybody else is saying and based off of this and that, I'm going to go with round. It doesn't really matter that much to me. So it's not like a rabbit hole I've gone down.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as fundamentally as that is going, I don't, and admitting, like, I don't know that. I believe what somebody else has said about that. I don't know it. And you know, and being like, I want to say humble enough to go, yeah, I fucking don't know shit. I don't know. There's like everything I thought I knew was a belief. It was a belief in a system, basically. It's a belief. It's, you know, when you believe what an analyst says on, you know, on the news or an expert says, it's like, what are you believing? You're believing who the government is parading in front of us. You're believing what Time Warner says, what Disney says, what I'm saying. That's what you're believing. You're believing in.
It's a lot of sources, man. Yeah.
You're believing in what a very large corporation is putting in front of you, and that's not to say that's wrong. It's not to say what they're saying is wrong, but it's different than knowing something.
Yeah, for sure.
Then. So that's what I think about PJ Black.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we love him too. He was actually the first one to give us an opportunity for the interview on our podcast. PJ Black was the first interview.
He's an amazing character, dude. I love him.
He's so sick. Yeah, absolutely.
He's some really, really cool people too that have opened up, you know, my world some and some of this stuff. And
absolutely, man. But lastly, John Cena.
Look, I don't like to put people on pedestals because, like, look, because you know that's how so much you can be susceptible to so many things. Or putting people on pedestals and putting things on pedestals, whatever. But that aside, John Cena is the man. I love John Cena. He's one of my heroes. He was the hardest working guy there, top guy there, and treated everybody great. Like, he's the one guy that he didn't need to treat anybody well, and he treated everybody well. And he was always open to hearing ideas from everybody. You know, and look, ultimately he would say what he wanted to say, but he wanted to hear it from everybody. And and there's a guy that has just you know, he's done so well in wrestling. He's doing well outside of wrestling. Here's a guy that, while he was injured, I mean, Kevin Owens like sent me a video. It was like John. God, when were they together? I forget where they were together. And John had just come back from injury, and John had learned how to play the piano while he was off.
Oh my gosh!
And you know, he practiced, you know, Mandarin every day. It's a part of his routine, and it's like, here's a guy that's doing it. Like, there's a guy, it's like, this is it. Life's only happening to me one time. How do I live? You know, how do I live?
Right.
And I look at Cena, WWJCD or whatever. What would John Cena do, man? Like, that was, you know, and like I said, I don't like to put people on pedestals. Part of me believes that sometimes. Well, yeah, what would John Cena do? Well, he would do, like, somebody says shit to him, like, he would act gracefully and probably make a dick joke. But
definitely, yeah.
He was the most gracious guy, but also a man, and also strong. He was gracious, but not weak, not in that way where it's like, oh, you're just gonna let people trample on you. You know, there's sometimes we confuse like niceness, you know, oh, I'm being nice, where really it's like actually cowardly and weak. It's like, he was a guy that was gracious and kind because he was strong and powerful in every sort of way you could be, but you know, used his strength for good and didn't have to pull out his sword to fight. You know, that's a guy. Yeah, I love John.
Legend, man, legend.
I'd say one of, if not the greatest of all time.
Perhaps. Yeah.
He's a guy that, again, he hits me right in that spot where I like pro wrestling. Like,
exactly.
Got to work with John. Like, the whole probably like 2017. I left in October of 2017. And yeah, the whole year I did all of John's stuff, and it was great work.
Oh yeah, because I grew up on John Cena, and like you said, he's always promoting that positive message. He is the John Cena that we see on TV, and I remember like growing up, be little things like around the age where people started to find out that wrestling was predetermined. And the cool thing at my elementary school would be on hate on wrestling. I loved it, and when people would make fun of me for liking it, it'd always be like John Cena mindset. I don't care what people think of me. I'm just gonna do me. Or if I'm struggling in something, John Cena mindset. I'm never gonna give up. He was like the perfect guy to get me through my childhood and where I am today.
Great role model.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Great. Look, I'm not like friends with John. I like I said, I worked with him. It was a pleasure to work with him. But it's awesome when you meet a guy and work with a guy, and he's more than what you thought he was.
Absolutely.
That what you saw on TV isn't a charade; it's a small sliver of himself, and there's so much more. And that's how he lives, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely. But
definitely.
I want to thank you for taking the time for making this interview happen. And you can find Jimmy Jacobs' podcast on any podcast streaming service that is called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know. And we'll link it down below. And we want to thank you. And where can we find you on social media?
On Instagram and Twitter, it's Jimmy Jacobs X. If you have any issues with there's something in my head that goes, oh yeah, people aren't gonna like what I say, and that's just that's something I get to work through. I go, hey, I get to. Hey, why are you worried about people not liking what you have to say?
Right.
There's a little, like I'm coming out and saying some stuff that's maybe unconventional sometimes for the first time in my life, and there's whatever's let's say fear attached to that. But yeah, Jimmy Jacobs X. You can, if you don't like what I have to say, or if you do like what I have to say, you can tag me on there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and yeah. Thank you for watching.
Amazing episode. Absolutely.
Thank you guys.